Alright, much brew time. Playing some Splendid Temur in Standard. Oh man, this hand! Oh, it's so bad unless we're in a specific matchup. We're gonna mulligan. Okay. Part the water veil, definitely to the bottom. No enablers. Island. Well, I'm glad we mulligan the first one if our opponent's on a deck that leads on basic island. Lumbering Falls, go. Opponent, Blighted Cataract. And Baral, Chief of Compliance. Well, play a Sanctum. Play Contingency Plans. Mill. Okay, we'll keep these two. Contingency Plans, World Breaker. Pass the turn. Opponent gets in for one with Baral. And passes. Well, play Lumbering Falls, pass the turn. Opponent gets in with Baral, the Chief of Compliance. And passes. Play an island, play Contingency Plan. Opponent, play into gates, sure. Discards Baral, which is why Baral's not very good. Plays an island. Gets in with Baral. Passes. Cinderglade, go. Opponent gets in with Baral for one. And passes. Well, let's pass the turn for now. See if our opponent's attacks into Lumbering Falls. They do. Oh, come on. Aw, opponent. You know you wanna. Opponent passes. Discarding to hand size. Well, fire up Lumbering Falls. I mean, if our opponent's not going to do anything, I guess we just have to win with Lumbering Falls. Beat down our opponent. Pass the turn. We want to draw land. We want to be able to contingency plan and then Splendid Reclamation in the same turn. If they counter the contingency plan, there's a land. So let's contingency plan. Opponent counters. Gets to loot. Well, this is fine because our follow-up is Splendid Reclamation, get back 3 lands. And now we got all kinds of sweet things. We can start World Breakering to hit lands. Pretty soon we're going to be able to attack with double Lumbering Falls. But really, just hitting the blue sources with World Breaker is going to be so good. Even if our opponent counters, it's going to be so good. So, World Breaker, kill an island. Opponent has Void Shatter. Loots away a super bad sensor. Loses a land. Well, we have more World Breakers to find. Opponent passes, or gets in for one, and passes. Well, play Spire Bluff, pass the turn. So I think we just want to double Kozilek's Return the Baral. Oh man, even more blowouts. So Kozilek's Return, kill the Baral, leave our opponent with nothing. Censors. Oh, and passes. Alright. Well, let's cycle Sheltered Thicket, cycle Dissenter's Deliverance, pieces of the puzzle for pieces of the puzzle, pieces of the puzzle, pieces of the puzzle, Cathartic Reunion, mill a World Breaker. That's what we wanted. Now we can just start getting back World Breakers, and that should close out the game pretty quickly. Opponent passes. There's Part the Water Veil. Well, let's lead on pieces of the puzzle. Opponent counters. Nissa's Renewal. Get the rest of the lands out of our deck. Pass the turn. Opponent passes. World Breaker. No Kozilek's Return. Kill an island. Opponent counters. And then we will Part the Water Veil. No Awaken. Just get an extra turn so we can get back World Breaker, destroy another island. Dissenter's Deliverance. So well, let's start with Cathartic Reunion. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, let's We want to just try to win right here. Let's cycle Dissenter's Deliverance, contingency plans. Cathartic Reunion, discard, discard. There's Part the Water Veil. So we play an Ether Hub, get an energy. Part the Water Veil, awaken a mountain. Get in for 6. And I think this is over now. And our opponent scoops it up. Yeah, we would have been able to just buy back World Breaker, destroy the last land, and that should do it. So I think in this matchup, oh my goodness, mono blue control. Bringing in negates, dispels, and rise from the tides. Go down Kozilek's Return. Go down Crush. Go down a cathartic... actually, let's go down to Center's Deliverance and keep Cathartic Reunion. Actually, maybe we want Thing in the Ice. That sounds so weird, but I think if we just play this on turn 2, it's our best way of just winning, because they're not going to be able to get it off the table if it flips. So let's try that. Alright, I mean, we can kill a Baral. We have a Lightning Axe for the long game. Mountain, go. We're going to hold on to Sheltered Thicket. We might actually want to cycle it. Island for our opponent. Well, play an island, pass the turn. Land for our opponent, and Baral. Well, that's cycle. Play Lumbering Falls, pass the turn. Island for our opponent. Gets in for 1. Oh man, this deck is obnoxious. Thankfully, it's not very good. I mean, it's kind of fun to play, but not very fun to play against. Mountain, go. Opponent draws a couple cards. Plays an island. Gets in with Baral. And passes. We play Lumbering Falls, which is probably going to be the doom of our opponent. Cycle Sensor. Opponent gets in with Baral. Play an Ether Hub. Get an energy. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. And passes. Well, let's Ether Hub. Get an energy. Play contingency plans. Opponent negates and loots. Discards bad Baral. Play pieces of the puzzle. Tries to scatter. We will dispel. Get a couple cards. Then we're also going to kill this Baral. Splendid Reclamation, negate. Then we will Lightning Axe, Baral, discard Part the Water Veil. Pass the turn. Now our opponent's got to beat Lumbering Falls. Found a land. Jeez. They have many Barals. Baral number 3. Well, that's contingency plan. Opponent scatters. Then Splendid Reclamation. Do they have a counter? Wow, they let it go. Oh my goodness. I can't believe our opponent did that. If they had a counter and let us resolve that, that's probably the game there, in all honesty. That's such a huge swing. Opponent passes. Well, let's start the fun. World Breaker. Get a land. Scatter to the winds. Well, let's negate that, or attempt to. Alright, opponent spent their entire hand, loot away a land, 1 card in hand. Sure, you do that, opponent. Well, guess what? We get to get back and do again next turn, and the next turn, and the next turn. Our opponent might be forced to commit to memory, which taps them out, refills our hand, and we still have a huge board. So I feel like even if they do that, and they probably have to, it's not going to be enough. Opponent gets in for 3. Sure. And if they don't do that, they're in all kinds of trouble. 2 cards in hand. Well, that's contingency plan. Mill, mill, mill. We'll keep pieces of the puzzle. Yeah, let's rise from the tides. Another scatter to the winds. Okay. You go, opponent. Opponent. Who gets in with everything. Getting super frisky. Down to 6. Let's loot. Discard Splendid Reclamation. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a land. And passes. Well, let's loot. Not sure exactly what we're looking for. Discard a pieces of the puzzle. We'll keep the negate. Pass the turn. Opponent draws a card. Cycles a censor. Plays a land. Well, let's loot. Discard pieces of the puzzle. Play an island. Pass the turn. Opponent draws more cards. Draws more cards. Anticipates. Draws even more cards. Plays a cataract. Plays a glyph keeper. Okay. Well, let's start by looting. Discard a Splendid Reclamation. Then we will get back our World Breaker. Play a Cinderglade. World Breaker. Get rid of a land. Negate pieces of the puzzle. And pass the turn. Opponent. Oh dear. Glyphs into the World Breaker. I don't think they read the reach. World Breaker claims another victim. Down to 2. Opponent casts another Glyph Keeper. We draw a pretty useless land. Well, let's cast Part the Waterfall. Opponent has another Void Shatter. Gets to loot. Play an island. Pass the turn. The question's going to be if they can get rid of our World Breaker somehow. Opponent tapping a ton of mana. Embalms Glyph Keeper. Okay. And passes. Well, let's start by looting. We'd love to find an extra turn spell. Discard the Sanctum. And then we will get back a World Breaker, sacking a forest. Let's cycle Sheltered Thicket. More lands. World Breaker. Kill the land. Play Canal. Pass the turn. Opponent draws a couple cards. Plays a land. Oh, finds their spell. Alright, sure. Well, let's run it back. I feel like our opponent shouldn't be able to win this match, even though their deck is epically obnoxious. Oh, that's a Thing in the Ice. That's going to be a card that our opponent is going to struggle to beat. Tap land, go. Opponent plays an island. No 1-mana counters in Standard. Spire Bluff and Thing in the Ice. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Cataract and Baral. Well, we will take this opportunity to pieces of the puzzle. We will take Dispel and Contingency Plan. Mill a couple of World Breakers, which is good for the long game. Pass the turn. Thing in the Ice, 3 counters. Opponent passes. Well, let's play Ether Hub and Contingency Plan. Let's see. So we want Lumbering Falls. Do we just want all the lands? Probably not. So let's see. We'll mill Sanctum, Mountain, and Part the Watervale. We'll draw pieces of the puzzle next turn. Leave Lumbering Falls on top. And pass the turn. Opponent anticipates. I mean, our opponent's trying. Opponent. Illumination. Well, I think we dispel that. And I believe this should be game. So we dispel Illumination. 1 counter on Thing in the Ice. That lets us untap and pieces of the puzzle. Flip Thing in the Ice. Bounce Baral. Get a Splendid Reclamation. Play Sheltered Thicket. Get in with our Woken Horror. Yeah, I think that does it. Thing in the Ice. Control Breaker. Island for our opponent. And we still have Dispel for defense. Opponent goes commit. We will dispel the commit. Oh, jeez. Oh, my God. This also means we get to Splendid Reclamation. That's a lot of lands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana on turn 6. Get in, opponent's at 6, and looks like the end is nigh for our opponent. Even if they manage to commit, and they do, we just part the Water Veil with Awaken. And we'll even put it on Lumbering Falls, even though I think that's normally the wrong choice. It doesn't matter here. Tap our lands, and exactly 6, the numbers line up. And good game mono blue control, thank goodness. Oh my God. Oh, that matchup, that deck, oh my goodness. Well, we learned something, and you think of Thing in the Ice as a card you want against aggro, but if your opponent's playing a deck that doesn't have a lot of removal, it's super good against control because it's such a quick clock. Thanks for watching the video. If you're subscribed, make sure to hit that bell icon to get notifications for all the latest videos. It's a great way to support the channel for free, and you can find the next video right here.